For me, the mitzvah of Sukkah reminds me of Tefillin, the cube of the Sukkah. It's a Tefillin cube to me. And the two blocks mean that there must be two sukkahs. Actually, there are three sukkahs, because there are three aspects of tefillin. Never forget the dalet in the back of the head. That's the third aspect of tefillin. And in a certain sense, that dalet is a great secret of sukkah, because you need a two-walled sukkah and then a little bit of a third wall, which is like a hand. And so there is really a dalet in the back there. The dalet is a sukkah. And now that I think of it, it's very much like the letter gam for the barrels in Pesach. And the whole idea is that spot back there is his left hand is under his head and his right arm embraces me. And the embracing is the idea of the sukkah. And why I think, everybody knows that the sukkah comes from Bina, and Bina is Leah. And the gematria of Leah is 36, which is 6 squared, and that's 36. So if you take the 6 walls of the sukkah and square them, you get 36, that's Leah, and that comes from Bina. But the sum of the squares from 1 to 6 is 1 squared is 1, 2 squared 4, 3 squared 9. You add all these up. 4 squared 16, that's 30 as the sum. 5 squared 25, that's 55. 6 squared 36, that's Leah. The sum of all those is 91. 91 is the gematria of Sukkah. So we're trying to get the 6 squares. See, the 6 square here. And that's remember that the 7th square, which are the 7 sons, that's 49. 7 squared is 49. Again, another reference here to Pesach and Shavuos. That 49, that comes out to be now as a full 91 and 49 is 140, and 140 is the sum of Chokhmah and Bina, which are always united. So this all, again, refers here to Sukkah, and the right arm embracing the left underneath the head. And the, 7 days of Sukkah here. And so for me, but the ultimate thing, again, I'm always long-winded. For me, the ultimate thing is that Sukkah fully spelt out. That's Samach, 120 Vav. That's 12, that makes 132. Kaf, 100, that's 232. which is Yud Kei Vav Kei, fully spelled out in the 4 times. And the Hey is 6. Hey Aleph, 6. That's 232 plus 6. That's 238, and that's Rachel. And Rachel is always Malkus. So we have a Bina that we know of, that's the Sukkah. And then we have the Malkus. And to me, those are the 2 blocks of the Sukkah, of Tefillin. The 2 cubes. So in a certain sense, for those who put on Tefillin during Chol HaMoed of Sukkot, and you sit in the Sukkah, you're doing something extraneous. You don't realize that the Sukkah itself is a Tefillin. However, this year I'm putting on Tefillin during Chol HaMoed. And so when you sit in the Sukkah, you're under the auspices of Tefillin. And those 3 auspices of Tefillin, never forget there's the 3rd auspice. And these are the 3 times that Sukkah is mentioned in the part of the Torah, and 2 times without the Vav, and 1 time full. And the 3 times refer to the 3 aspects of Tefillin. And the cube itself is the Tefillin. And this is a very deep and beautiful thing. This is my aspects. I don't care if nobody else sees it. To me, it's so obvious when you see a cube. I don't care if there's Sukkah on top. That Sukkah on top can, to me, refer to the 2 shinim, 2 shins on the right and left of the tefillin, the 3 and the 4-pronged shin, which again becomes 7. 7 is the number underneath, like the 7 benim of Zir Ampen and Nukuva, underneath the Bina. And also for me, that these 2 shins rise up through the Sukkah. And 7 times 7 is 49, which is the next square after the cube of the 6 cube. And 6 times 7 itself, 6 squared plus 7 squared equals actually 85, which is Sukkah, Samek, Kaf, Hey, without the Vav. And that's Sukkah without the Vav. Plus 1 is 86, and that represents the Dinim. And 6 squared plus 7 squared equals that. And remember that the total sum of this up to 7, well, leave it like that. For me, the 2 shinim of 300 each is 600. And this represents the shofar of the 13 of 586 plus the 14 pereks of the yad. Remember this yad. And that's the 3rd wall. So the hand, the yad is the 3rd wall. which is 1 squared plus 2 squared, that's 5, plus 3 squared, that's 9, that's 14, that's the 4. So 3, the sum of 1, 2, and 3 squared, the sum of that is 14, which is yard, and that's the 3 walls. See, 2 walls plus a third little wall. I happen to sit in a 3-walled sukkah. But for me, since my mitzvah is Tefillin, looks like a cube. And this relationship between shofar of the shins going up through the Sukkah, through the Sukkah, reminds me of the Akedah. It reminds me of the ayil stuck in the bush and the horns protruding out. And it reminds me of the relationship between Yom HaKippurim and Sukkah, where Yom HaKippurim these are conjoining opposites. And this final mem, which is a sukkah to me, is 600. And as you combine these two opposites, because the opposites are the ultimate dinam is in the ultimate, crying is in Yom HaKippurim, and then the ultimate happiness is in the Hag of Sukkot. In fact, the word Hag itself alone represents Sukkot. It's Simcha. And this comes after the shofar blast. And immediately after the shofar blast, to end Yom HaKippurim, we start building the sukkah. And this shofar is as 600. 586 plus the 14. And this brings us back to the first 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, which are Leah and Rachel. And in a certain sense, the Malchus has to rise up into Bina. Oh, these are so deep. And this is only for me, you see. Because for me, the sukkah is tefillin. Let me repeat that. For me, the sukkah is tefillin.